This PowerPoint presentation is part of the Level 1 certificate in the Introduction to Health, Social Care and Children and Young People settings run by Plato Training. It looks at Unit 18, Autistic Spectrum Condition, and Unit 22, Mental Health. The aims and objectives of this session are that you will know the importance of a person-centered approach for a person with autistic spectrum condition. You will understand the concepts of autistic spectrum condition. You will be able to outline sensory difficulties a person with autistic spectrum condition may have. You will be able to identify the benefits of effective communication with a person with autistic spectrum condition. We will outline the use of visual communication systems. Understand why it is important to recognise and value individuals with mental health problems as a person. Understand biochemical and psychological mental health conditions, and outline factors that might affect a person's mental health state. You will be using your workbook to answer the questions, and it's important that you look out for the green box on each of the slides, usually on the right hand side, to show you which question the slide relates to. It's important that you do share your own ideas when you're working through the PowerPoints. You can use the ideas, but expand, put them in your own words. They're here to guide with pointers, but sharing your own ideas, it demonstrates a more and stronger understanding of the content. And if you do wish to progress to the next level, it shows you're able to do wider reading and have an understanding of a topic that's up for the discussion. We are going to start looking now at the slides relating to question number 1. And the first thing I want you to do is open the video link here, the YouTube link. I want you to watch it before you move on to the next slide. And you're going to be looking at autism and what it means. This slide, you will see some facts about autism. And if you are autistic for life. Autism is not an illness or disease and cannot be cured. Often people feel being autistic is a fundamental aspect of their own identity, which means we must celebrate the differences, celebrate diversity. Autism is a spectrum condition. All autistic people share certain difficulties, but being autistic will affect them in different ways. So some autistic people also have learning disabilities, mental health issues, or other conditions, meaning people need different levels of support. All people on the autistic spectrum learn and develop. With the right sort of support, all can be helped to live a more fulfilling life of their own choosing. And these facts are taken from the autism.org.uk website. And you can actually go on their website and look for more information there, for more facts that will support you in completing this these questions. And here is a definition of autism. Again, it's been found on the autism.org.uk site. And autism is a lifelong development disability that affects how people perceive the world and interact with others. Autistic people see, hear and feel the world differently to other people. And here you will see another definition of autism, which is taken from the NHS websites, and you'll see that at the bottom. And again, have a look on there. I know you've looked on the NHS sites from previous tasks as well. So autistic people may act in a different way to other people. Autistic people may find it hard to communicate and interact with other people. They may find it hard to understand how other people think or feel. They may find things like bright lights or loud noises overwhelming, stressful or uncomfortable. They may get anxious or upset about unfamiliar situations and social events. They may take longer to understand information, and they do or they think the same things over and over. So what causes autism? Well, actually, it's not clear what causes autism. Nobody knows what causes autism, and it might not even have a cause. It can affect people in the same family, so it may sometimes be passed on to a child by their parents. But what autism is not caused by, and it's really important to have an understanding of these points, and again, it's taken from the NHS website, but it's not caused by bad parenting. Because sometimes the behaviours of certain individuals, children who are autistic, some people may judge them and think it's because of the parenting. It's not caused by vaccines. So, many years ago, the people were told that the MMR could cause autism, and lots of parents stopped having their children vaccinated. And it was never proven. It's not true. It's definitely not caused by the MMR vaccine. And there's been a lot of you know, publicity about getting your child vaccinated, because if a children gets mumps, they get measles, it can affect them. It can be life-threatening in some circumstances as well. So it is really important that we know that it doesn't cause autism. It's not caused by diet, so what people eat, what children eat. It's not caused by that, and it's not caused by an infection you can spread to other people. So you can't pass it on. You may sometimes hear people saying that people with autism are really talented, but no, they're not necessarily talented. Autistic people can have any level of intelligence. So some autistic people have an average of or above average intelligence. Some autistic people have a learning disability, and this means they may find it hard to look after themselves and need help with daily life. Okay, so this brings you now to question number 1, and it's asking you to outline what is meant by the term autistic spectrum condition. Now, you can use some of the slides for your information. You watch the video on the YouTube clip and think about that as well, but you're going to be putting it into your own words, you're going to be outlining it, you're going to be writing in sentences, but it's really important that you put it into your own words with the information that you've found. We're now going to look at slides relating to question number 2. And at the first slide, you'll see it's an individual with autism, and you'll see there's 2 links to 2 YouTube clips, one for an adult and one for a child. So what I want you to do, I want you to click on both of those links and watch the short videos, and you will see an adult living with autism and a child living with autism. So it's really important that you watch the videos before you move on to the next slides. Okay, so you've watched the videos, and now we're going to look at viewing an individual with autism. So just because somebody has autistic spectrum condition, it does not mean they lose their rights to be individual and unique. Everybody needs to be able to express themselves. And as we've looked at over the weeks, if we treat everybody the same, then we're not being fair, because we're not all the same. We've all got different needs and different abilities. So you'll see on here, for example, so if everybody in a care home was given a bed bath, even those who could walk, stand or help themselves, we're not treating people as an individual. Or in a nursery, if every child was told to use the toilet, even those not potty trained, again, we're not treating them as individual. And this is the same with somebody with autism. We need to be treating them fairly and looking for their own individual needs. So from the videos of the child and the adult who are living with autism, you'll see that they actually they enjoy being themselves. They like to be able to do what they enjoy, and they appreciate having choice. This helps their well-being and allows them to be an individual, have an individual identity, rather than just being known as Joe Bloggs, who is autistic. And we're going to look at this some more on the next slide. And we're going to look at why it's important to view the person before their autistic spectrum condition. So always view the person before their disability. So say a person with autism, a person with a disability. a child with autistic spectrum condition, an adult who uses a wheelchair. It's really important to avoid saying a disabled person, an autistic child, a wheelchair user. It shows that you respect the person and recognise them as an individual, and it prevents the person feeling labelled. So what might happen if we label people as autistic, as disabled, or as a wheelchair user? What do you think? Just have a think about that for a few minutes. What might happen if we do label people like that? So this slide is going to look at the negative effects of labelling. So by labelling people by their disability and condition, it takes away who they are. So for example, we wouldn't want to be called the girl with the brown hair, the man with glasses, or even worse than that, the fat one, the ugly one, the white man. Other labels are being called racist, uncooperative, an idiot, stupid. Calling someone naughty can make them act up to that. So most people prefer to be called by their name rather than another word that people use to describe them. This will help people to feel more accepted, including people with autism. So, it's really important that to think about it, think about labeling, and it's about finding out that person's name. If you can, find out the person's name, and then at least you can refer to them by their name. Now, over the weeks, we've looked at legislation, we've looked at laws, we've looked at rights, and people with autism are protected by many laws. So it's important for you to work within the policies in your workplace to ensure you're giving people or children that you're working with who have autistic spectrum condition, you need to be able to give them their rights. And you'll see here, there's some examples. So there's the Adult Autism Strategy, the Statutory Guidance 2015, the Autism Act 2009, the Care Act 2014, the Equality Act 2010, Fulfilling and Rewarding Lives, the Strategy for Adults with Autism in England 2010, and Think Autism, so Fulfilling and Rewarding Lives, the Strategy for Adults with Autism in England, which is an update in 2014. So, I'm not asking you to go and read all those, all the legislations, the laws, but you really need to be aware of them, and the policies and the procedures within the workplace where you'll be working will be taken from these laws. But it is important, and by all means, if you want to have a look, read the summary of them, and it will help you understand and find out some more about them. This brings you to question number 2, and you need to outline why it is important to recognise and value an individual with an autistic spectrum condition as a person first. Think about the last few slides that we talked about, that you looked at, and obviously, like I said before, and you're used to it by now, you need to put it into your own words. We're going to look at slides relating to question number 3 now, and we're going to look at person-centred care and start by looking at person-centred care plans. Now, I know you've looked at person-centred care already, so you should have some information about it. So this will be just a reminder of person-centred care. So when you do get to the question, you can use the information you already know, and obviously look at the one we're going to talk about now. So person-centred care plans. So they're about finding out information. Okay, so what information do we need to find out, and how are we going to do that? And why is it important in planning care? Why shouldn't we treat everyone the same? So for a few minutes, just have a think about those before you move on to the next slide. Okay, so finding out information. Again, we've looked at this, and we're looking at specifically aiming it at individuals with autistic spectrum condition, but ask the person you are caring for about what they want. The person should always be at the centre of the care plan. Ask their family, their partners, friends, ask them for more information. The more information you have on the individual, the more person-centred their care can become. Why is it important in planning care? Well, like we've said previously, needs, wishes, likes and dislikes. We can find things out that may trigger restricted behaviour. We're going to look a bit further about this. Individuals with autistic spectrum condition, there are certain triggers, so we need to find that out. Routines, what are they used to doing? Again, routines are really important for individuals with autistic spectrum conditions. So, if we change things, it might have an adverse effect. Preferred methods of communication. So, for example, if we use Makaton, but the person that you're with uses British Sign Language to sign, then this would be like speaking Spanish to an English-speaking person. They wouldn't be able to understand because they understand they understand British Sign Language and not Makaton. So what is meant by person-centered approach? Well, it means inclusion. People are allowed to be involved in creating their own plan of care. They can share their likes, dislikes, favourites, preferences, beliefs, anything that's important to them. People are allowed to state their preferences, so the food they like, the drink, religion, the clothing they want to wear, and many, many other things. People need to feel empowered and in control of the care they receive. It respects people's wishes. It ensures people still have their rights. So we talked about laws earlier on, but we know about the confidentiality and the privacy. That person-centered approach ensures they have their rights. It encourages independence, so people with autistic spectrum condition can still learn to become more independent. And allowing people to use their existing abilities to help themselves. So, for example, for them to be able to cook a meal for themselves safely, by having that person-centered approach, that allows them still to be able to do that if they're able to. Okay, so we're now going to look at CAF, and we're going to look at what person-centered care CAF will benefit from. So Kath is 18 and has autistic spectrum condition. She lives in a residential school for people with learning disabilities. Kath finds it difficult when new people come into the residential home. She prefers to stay in her room and greet the new person in her own time. Kath does not like to be told what to do, especially at meal times. If she wants to eat in her room and she says she could do it when living at her mum's house, but has difficulty expressing this and often gets angry at staff who try and encourage her to come to the dining room. So we're going to look at two ways of working with Kath. We're going to look at a person-centered care and a non-person-centered care. So a person-centered care, so Kath can introduce herself to the new people in her own time. Kath can eat in her bedroom, but should try and eat sociably in the dining room once a week, even if it's just for a pudding or a drink. If she does manage to eat or drink in the dining room, she will be praised. It promotes well-being and individuality. So that person-centered care is about trying to it's about working with Kath and looking at her individual needs and working with her to try and encourage her to like it says, introduce herself to people in her own time, and asking her, like once a week she can eat in the dining room. So we're encouraging it gradually rather than getting her stressed by asking her to do it all the time. And non-person centered care. So, Kath will meet and greet new people who come to live in the residential home by lining up to shake their hands and say hello. Otherwise, she will be seen as rude. But she doesn't want to do that. It's not what she likes to do. Kath must eat every meal and drink in the dining room. Otherwise, she cannot have anything. The staff don't want her to eat alone because they say they don't know if she is hiding food. If she refuses to come to the dining room, she will be told to stay in her room until she says sorry. Now, this promotes institutional abuse, and again, we've talked about institutional abuse in the past, and it's about just doing the same for every individual, every person. And as we can see, Kath has her own individual needs, and by having that non-person centered care is really not going to do Kath any favors. It's not going to promote her well-being. It's just going to make her feel worse. So it's important that you do take that person-centered care approach with individuals. And this slide here, it just reiterates what I said. If Kath, how will she feel if she is treated with person-centered manner? And she will feel more confident, she'll feel empowered, she'll feel safe, she'll feel cared for, as opposed to the non-person centered care approach where she may feel in danger, not respected, not cared for. She may feel worthless, and she might feel like the staff are against her. If somebody's forcing you to do something, you think yourself, if somebody's forcing you to do something that you don't want to do, then you're going to feel in danger and not respected. So it's really important to provide person-centred care, to view the person before their disability. Ask for their opinions on their care. What do they like? What do they dislike? Create a life story by asking friends, carers, relatives, family, as the individual may find communication difficult. It's really important with the person-centred care for people with autistic spectrum condition to find out behaviours, because they're different from each individual, from person to person. So to be person-centred, you need to find out their preferred method of communication, what any triggers, patterns, routines, and what their normal social interaction is. And question number 3 is asking you to give 4 examples of how to use the person-centred approach when working with individuals with an autistic spectrum condition. You'll see in your book you've got a table, and it's just put the top of the table here. You need to give an example in the left-hand box, and then you need to write about how this could help the person with autistic spectrum disorder in the right-hand box, and it's asking you to give 4 examples, so make sure you give 4. We're going to look at slides relating to question number 4, and we're going to look at behaviours associated with autism. So we've already said this previously, but people with autistic spectrum condition are all different. Not everyone with autistic spectrum condition will display the same behaviours. So you'll see some examples here of some of the behaviours that may be seen. So flapping hands, walking on toes, a need for routines, temper tantrums, obsessive behaviours, so the need for rituals, and tapping and stroking. So there's some examples of behaviours. Now I want you to have a look for some more before you get to the next slide with the question on. Have a look for some more behaviours. You can do some research on the particular behaviours as well. The obsessive behaviours, the need for rituals. Sometimes I've seen where a child, to actually go through the door, they have to open the door, close the door, and then open it again, and they do that every time they go through a door. So they're like the rituals and the obsessive behaviours that you may see. But as I say, have a look, do some more research. And from the research and the previous slide, you need to answer question number 4 and give at least 5 examples of behavioural characteristics associated with autistic spectrum condition. And use the boxes in your workbook to write your examples. And just you're given the example, and you can say a little bit about what that behavioural characteristic might be. This slide relates to question number 5, and it looks at sensory difficulties associated with autism. People with autistic spectrum condition are all different. Not everyone with autistic spectrum condition will display the same sensory difficulties. And here are some examples of some sensory difficulties that may be experienced. And again, once you've looked at them, do some research and have a look at some more. So, high pain tolerance, acting like they are deaf when they're not, the need to smell everything, they cannot stand being touched, very sensitive to activities that make their brain react. Also can be overwhelmed when the senses are activated at once. So for example, they're on a bus ride, there are lights to see, there's talking, there's smells of people and fumes, the seats feel rough. So all their senses are being activated at once, and that can really affect a person with autistic spectrum condition. So have a look at those before you move on to the next slide, do some more research. And then you need to answer question 5, which is asking you to outline sensory difficulties which may be experienced by individuals with an autistic spectrum condition. Okay, we're going to look at slides relating to question number 6 now. And for a few minutes, I want you just to think, why is it important to plan, care and maintain routines? Okay, so just think about that for a moment, why it's important to plan, care and maintain routines. Okay, so it's important to plan, care and maintain routines. For example, fear of the unknown. We don't want to overwhelm somebody by change. So if we've got plans and we know the routine, then there's not going to be change and it's not going to overwhelm somebody. By having a safe environment, so by planning the care and the routines, safety can be cared for. So in the home, it can be a safe environment, and outside the home, so road safety can all be accounted for. Security, so if an individual's routine is to be obsessed by the doorbell, this needs planning so that there is no risk to the safety, but still maintaining some independent skills. And avoiding behaviour triggers. So for example, it may be triggered by a colour or a texture. So by having plans in place and those colours not being there, or the texture, the materials, that's important for the individual that you're working with. So question number 6 is asking you to outline the importance of preparation, planning and routines for individuals. So think about the last slide, put this into your own words, do your own research. But as I said, before, it's really important that you put it into your own words. Okay, we're going to look at this slide which relates to question number 7, and it's looking at communication with people with autistic spectrum condition and why it's important. Now, it's really important and it can benefit people in various and many ways. So if a person with autistic spectrum condition can communicate, it can promote their independence. They are going to be able to express their needs and communicate with others. It's going to support them to interact with others, with staff, with family, with friends, with carers. It can help them to be involved in their community. They could volunteer, they could participate in group work, and they could also participate in paid work. It also supports behaviours, so it can be less frustrating for somebody if they can communicate. So question number 7 is asking you to identify the benefits of effective communication in the lives of individuals with an autistic spectrum condition. I've put the top of the chart that's in your workbook, so on the left hand side the benefits of effective communication, and on the right side how is this good for individuals with autistic spectrum condition, and you need to use a sentence within your answer. We're going to now look at the next few slides which relate to question number 8. And we've looked at communication and how it can support individuals with autistic spectrum condition. And we're now going to look at different ways of communicating, because it's not always verbal. Now, I know you've looked at communication also in the past, so some of these, again, it's just to remind you to go over them again and use the knowledge also that you gained from looking at them previously. So there are various methods of communication available. So, for example, Picture Exchange Communication Service, which you'll see in the brackets, is often called PECS. sign language, Makaton and British Sign Language. We spoke about that earlier on in the session when we were talking about the scenario of speaking to somebody, if you were using Makaton and somebody might use British Sign Language. They are both types of sign language, but very different. Similar, but there are differences. Communication boards, cue cards, conversation books, and picture timetables. There are a few examples, and we're going to look at them a little bit more, some of them a little bit more on the next slides. So the first one we're going to look at is the Picture Exchange Communication Service, which we said is sometimes known as PECS. And this develops the use of flashcards into sentences. So I want or I need, then the picture to follow to make communication easier for non-verbal individuals with autism to express themselves. And the next 6 slides, there are 6 phases which I'm going to talk you through, and you'll see at the bottom of each slide the website where I got the information from, and you can go on there and have a look for some more information if you want to find out some more about PECS. So phase 1 is how to communicate, and individuals learn to exchange single pictures for items or activities they really want. Phase 2 is about distance and persistence. So still using single pictures, individuals learn to generalize their new skill by using it in different places, so with different people and across distances. So they're also taught to be more persistent communicators. By phase 3, they're looking at picture discrimination. So individuals learn to select from 2 or more pictures to ask for their favourite things. So they're placed in a PECS communication book, which is a ringed binder with self-adhesive hook fastener strips where pictures are stored and easily removed for communication. So the individuals can take the pictures out when they're communicating. By phase 4, they'll be using sentence structure, so the individuals learn to construct simple sentences on a detachable sentence strip using an I want picture followed by a picture of the item being requested. Phase 5, responsive requesting. So individuals learn to use PECS to answer questions such as what do you want? Rather than them asking what they want, you're asking, the person would be asking what do you want? And they will use the pictures to show you. And finally, phase 6, so individuals are taught to comment in response to questions such as what do you see, what do you hear, and what is it? They learn to make up sentences starting with I see, I hear, I feel, it is a, and so on. Another example here, we've got picture timetables. So you'll see on the right hand side there, the timetable there, it's got times on there. So for example, at 8:50, you'll see the pictures next. So it's time to sit, it's time to listen, and it's group time. At 9 o'clock, they're going to be doing phonograms and book study. At 9:50, it's toilet time, fruit time, morning talks, mental maths, and so on. You'll see the play. And these picture visual timetables, obviously the visual, so the individuals can see exactly what their plan is for the day. It gives them the structure of the day. It can promote their independence because they know that they're going to be sitting, they're going to be listening, it's time to use the bathroom, things like that. It reduces their anxiety because they know what's expected, they know what time of day it is. It'll increase their confidence also because, again, they know what's expected. It builds upon their strengths as a visual learner, and it also builds upon the desire for routine and organisation. And we're going to look at Makaton. So this is a language program that uses symbols, signs and speech to enable people to communicate. It supports the development of essential communication skills such as attention and listening, comprehension, memory, recall, and organisation of language and expression. And you will see on this slide there are two video links for you to have a look and have a go at some Makaton. The first one, there's some simple Makaton signs, and then some trickier ones on the second one. There's lots of information online also if you want to look at Makaton further, and it might be something you're really interested in. And again, you can online, you can do short courses to for you to learn the Makaton. So that brings you to question number 8, and it's asking you to give at least 4 examples of different methods of communication that can be used where individuals have difficulty with spoken language. So we're going to look at slides now relating to question number 9. And you've looked at the 3 visual communication methods of Makaton, picture timetable and PECS. And we're going to look now at what skills can people with autistic spectrum condition learn by using these 3 skills. So by using these 3 methods, or any of those 3 methods, people with autistic spectrum condition could learn better communication skills. They could be able to tell you what's upsetting them. It builds on the strengths of the individual. Some verbal language could learn the words associated with the pictures or signs, so that they could learn some verbal language from looking at the pictures or signs. They could learn to react more to language and socialise more rather than not paying attention to it. And it could increase the literacy skills. So thinking, speaking and listening as part of the English language tests, it could help support that. And question number 9 is asking you to outline the use of visual communication systems for individuals with an autistic spectrum condition. You need to outline, so use sentences to show your understanding of each method, and you need to provide 3 different methods. So before you move on to the next questions, I want you just to watch this video, and it's a short clip. It's a Tesco, so the supermarket Tesco, it's their video clip, and it's what they're doing to support people who have hidden disabilities. So it's only a few minutes, so really important. Have a look at it before you move on to the next slide. So we're now going to look at mental health. So you're on the same day within your workbook, but it's been split up into 2 sections. One looking at autistic spectrum condition, and then the next few questions looking at mental health. So we're going to start looking at slides relating to question number 10, and we're looking at what mental health means. And this slide, it's a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. So you need to now click onto the links here of the 2 YouTube video clips and watch them both, and it's about people living with mental health. So before you move on to the next slide, it's really important that you watch these 2 videos. So why is it important to recognise and value an individual with mental health problems as a person first? So we need to do this to make the person feel that their feelings and wishes are being respected. Under the Mental Capacity Act, it says that adults with mental health problems should be allowed and encouraged to make as many decisions as they can for themselves. This then promotes their independence. To allow the person with the mental health problem to feel both listened to and in control of their own life. To allow the person with the mental health problems to feel easily understood. It's really important that we focus on the person first and not their mental health problems. The person may feel out of control. We need to allow them to feel listened to and in control of what is happening to them. The person may feel no one is listening to them. We need to allow them to feel listened to. Find out about their needs, their wishes, their likes, their dislikes. We need to get to know them as a person. This will help you to support them. This brings you to question number 10, and you need to outline why it is important to recognise and value an individual with mental health problems as a person first. Again, making sure you can use the slides that we've looked at, but making sure you put it into your own words. Now we're going to look at slides relating to question number 11, and we're going to look at how to use a person-centered approach when working with individuals with mental health problems. Now we've looked at person-centered approach before, but we're going to focus, like I say, on the mental health problems. So care workers and health professionals need to gain a thorough understanding of individuals' mental health condition so that they can effectively care for the person's mental health. Care workers and health professionals need to understand that a person with mental health problems often feel worried or anxious about what is happening to them. Therefore, they must understand how to care and support the person effectively. Care workers and health professionals may need to gain further information about a person's mental health, so they may need to speak to other health organisations. They may need to review personal records or speak to family members or friends. Obviously, we've got Data Protection Act and the GDPR, so confidentiality rules do apply. And care workers and health professionals need to find out about a person's likes, dislikes, wishes, needs by asking them the right questions and listening to their answers carefully. It's really important that we do communicate and get as much information as we possibly can. Now, question number 11 is asking you to give 4 examples of how to use a person-centered approach when working with individuals with mental health problems. You'll see that there is a table within your workbook, and you can see the top of the table here. So you need to give the example in the left-hand side and then write about how this could help the person with mental health problems on the right-hand side of the table, and you need to give 4 examples. Obviously, think of the slide before that I talked through, but also use your own words, use your own ideas as well. So the next few slides relate to questions number 12 through to question number 17. And we're looking firstly at factors that affect mental health. So you will see here, and I'm going to talk through these individually a little bit more, you'll see emotional factors, social factors, psychological factors, and physical factors. So you might want to just think for a few minutes, just before you do move on to the next slide, what these factors may mean, what do you think they mean? So emotional factors are when a person feels very emotional. So this could be due to a bad experience, for example, the death of a loved one, or generally feeling a lack of control in their lives. Social factors, so when a person feels isolated, they feel alone, they have no friends, or they're unemployed, or unable to go out and socialise due to having no money, so lack of funds, or no one to go with. Psychological factors, so this can be when a person has a fear of coping with a traumatic situation, so it could be, for example, abuse. They may have a phobia, so again, for example, scared of leaving the house. They could be bullying, or they could be stressed. And physical factors, so when a person has a physical disability that makes them feel different and worried that people may look at them differently. Another risk is the lack of inclusion, so due to the person having mobility aids, so for example a wheelchair, some environments do not have the adequate adaptations for them to to go into the premises, into that environment, and this can result in the person with the physical disability now having mental health disability, such as depression, due to those factors. So the next few slides look at mental health problems that can come from some of the factors that we talked about on the slide before. So depression, so this can have an effect on an individual's mood. They may feel sad, or they may feel lonely. They may not feel good about themselves. Sometimes an individual with depression may not want to carry out their usual routines. So for example, they might not want to get out of bed, they might not want to see their friends, they just might not want to generally get motivated because they're feeling really low and depressed. So anxiety, and this can make an individual look or feel scared. Sometimes people may have panic attacks, they may feel nervous, and also it can affect their sleep patterns. which can also have a knock-on effect on other areas. You know, if they're not sleeping, they're tired, and then they're feeling more anxious, and then it can just lead to, like say, feeling nervous and having the panic attacks. Another mental health problem is self-harm, and self-harm is when somebody cuts themselves, they hurt themselves or injure themselves, and it's done on purpose. And you know, that's why it's called self-harm, because they're doing it to themselves and they're doing it on purpose. So there's eating disorders also. So this can include overeating, undereating, cutting out entire food groups. So for example, cutting out fats, carbs and sugars, not eating enough to stay healthy and not eating anything at all. So then that can cause anorexia. Another one to look at is stress. So this can involve feeling worried, anxious and tense, being unable to sleep well, no longer enjoying food, no longer eating food, not being able to eat, and overeating. Bipolar disorder. So this is when a person's mood changes between high and low. So an example, so being overexcited versus being very sad and very unhappy. And sometimes people with bipolar behave normally, then at other times they will seem strange. Schizophrenia, so this is when an individual imagines that characters or voices are in their head are real. They may think they are talking to them or telling them to do things. People with schizophrenia will think the characters and voices in their heads can cause danger or harm to others. Okay, so we're going to look at biochemical mental health now, and this relates to question number 12. And also you'll see on this slide some of the discussions we'd had on the previous ones that you would need to include into question 12. So biochemical mental health is when chemicals in the brain change how a person thinks and feels. So biochemical mental health disorders include bipolar disorder, which again we talked about before, postnatal depression, which is a type of depression that many parents experience after having a baby. It's a common problem affecting 1 in every 10 women within a year of giving birth, and it can also affect the partners and fathers too. Depressive disorders. So this can affect an individual's mood. They may feel sad or lonely. They may not feel good about themselves. Sometimes an individual with depression may not want to carry on their usual routine. And you know, as we talked about this before, they may not want to get out of bed in the morning and spend time with their friends. And anxiety disorders, again, which we talked about earlier, you know, feeling scared, and panic attacks, etc. So the next slide will have the question relating to number 12, but you do need to use this slide and the previous ones too. And here is question 12. So you need to give at least 2 examples of biochemical mental health problems. So at least 2, no less than 2. You can do some more, but at least 2. So this relates to question number 13. So psychological mental health. So psychological factors. So these include when a person has a fear of coping with a traumatic situation, such as abuse. They may have a phobia. So for example, scared of leaving the house, bullying or stress. And question number 13, give at least 2 examples of psychological mental health problems. So stress-related mental health relating to question number 14. So there are different mental health problems that are due to stress. So for example, anxiety, which is often caused by stress, depression, which is often caused by stress, and dementia can be linked with stress. Question 14, you need to give at least 2 examples of mental health problems that are due to the effects of stress. Environmental mental health relating to question 15. So that can environmental factors that can affect mental health could be, for example, so space, so having a lack of space, economic factors, social factors, the weather, so if it's cold, it's wet, it's windy, causing isolation, depression, seasonal affective disorder, which sometimes is known as SAD. So some people they prefer the sunshine and the warmer weather as opposed to the cold weather and the winter time. Family politics, so problem with relationships in families, relational dysfunction, so patterns of feeling, behaviours towards children, parents, partner. These are all environmental factors that can affect mental health. And question number 15 is asking you to give at least 2 examples of environmental mental health problems. You can use the slide before, do some further research and choose 2 of those, but make sure you write it in sentences, then show you've done the research and set that understanding of what they are. Emotional mental health, so relating to question number 16, so emotional factors that can affect mental health can be anxiety, depression, bad experiences, so including the death of a loved one, environmental disasters, so bombing, a stabbing, local incidents, and currently the COVID-19 pandemic that we're actually experiencing, this could affect, and experiencing abuse, and they all can cause emotional mental health problems. Question 16, you need to give at least 2 examples of emotional mental health problems. Again, use the slide before and do some further research to show your understanding. Physical mental health, which relates to question 17. So physical factors, so when a person has a physical disability that makes them feel different and worry that people are looking at them differently. And another risk is the lack of inclusion due to the person having mobility aids, like we discussed earlier. And these can all affect physical mental health. Question 17, give at least 2 examples of physical mental health problems. Okay, we're going to look at slides relating to question number 18, and we're going to start by just for a few minutes, thinking about what are the benefits of effective communication on the lives of individuals with mental health problems. So think about that for a few moments before you move on to the next slide. Okay, so here on this slide, there are some of the benefits of effective communication. So the person with mental health problems will feel understood, they'll feel cared for, they'll feel safe and secure and able to express who they are and how they feel. If we're effectively communicating with them, hopefully they'll be able to feel that they can tell us how they're feeling. They'll feel listened to and heard by others. They'll have a feeling of independence. They'll feel valued and respected and part of the community or the environment or the mental health setting where they live. They'll be able to show their emotions, feel less frightened and alone. They'll be more in control of the care, cared for and understood, valued and respected, listened to and heard by others. They'll be able to trust people, so the care staff, the doctors, the nurses who want to help them, so they will, if we're communicating effectively, we will be able to gain that trust. They'll feel less scared, afraid, less anxious. They'll feel less alone. They'll feel, no longer isolated. It will help make sense of their own feelings, and they will be able to ask for help. If they feel safe and secure, with the effective communication, they will be able to ask for help. They'll be able to show their emotions, not afraid to tell their true feelings, and they'll be able to give opinions of what's working and what's not working. And it's really important, that effective communication, to build the trust and gain an understanding for somebody to be able to talk to you and express how they're feeling. So question 18 is asking you to identify the benefits of effective communication on the lives of individuals with mental health problems. So, you need to identify, but making sure that you write a sentence, a supporting sentence to demonstrate your understanding of each of the examples you give. And you've got 2 boxes, so you need to talk at the benefit of effective communication on the left hand side and how this is good for individuals with mental health problems using a sentence. So think about a benefit of effective communication, follow it by how is this supports and how it's good for individuals. Okay, we're going to look at slides relating to question number 19. So we're going to start first, again, just think for a few minutes, what are active listening skills and why are they important? Have a think, do you know what active listening skills are? And if you do, why are they important? Active listening skills. So these are facial expressions and nodding and smiling appropriately. So if you're having a conversation with somebody, if somebody's talking to you, you're showing them that you're listening. You might not be verbally speaking back to them at that point because they're doing the communicating, but by your expressions, you're nodding and and you're smiling in the appropriate places, it shows that you're actively listening to that person talking to you. Good eye contact, facing the person who is talking. Again, all active listening skills. Good eye contact, you can see and hear, what that person is talking to you about. Staying focused on what the person is saying and not letting your thoughts wander. Really, really important. Because if your mind is wandering, your thoughts are wandering, you're not listening to what that person is saying, so you're not actively listening and you might not be able to answer them once they've stopped talking. Your body language, it needs to be calm and relaxed. Not sitting too close or too far away from the person, just making yourself so that you can hear, you can see, and they can hear and see you as well. And making helpful comments. So for example, I understand, just making comments within the conversation to show that you do understand and that you are listening. And why it's important to use active listening skills with individuals who have mental health problems is to be able to find out information about the person's mental health issues they're experiencing. If somebody is actually talking to you and telling you how they're feeling and what they're experiencing, it's really important that you do listen. It could be the first time that somebody's actually spoke about how they're feeling, and if you're not listening and not taking it serious, that can really knock somebody's confidence. And this will enable the care worker, the health professionals to get the right treatment, the right care, to treat and care for this person's condition, to point them in the right direction and to give them the right support to help them. Like I say, it might just be the first time somebody's talked to you about it. It might not be, it might be something ongoing, but it's important that you listen and you actively listen, and then you can point them in the right direction and get them the right support to help the individuals. So question number 19 is asking you to outline why it is important to use active listening skills with individuals who have mental health problems. To outline, please ensure you're writing full sentences to develop a paragraph, and you'll see there's a tip, it's in the book. Think about what active listening skills means and write what your understanding of that is, and then show how the person with mental health problems may feel when this technique is used. And and just think, we talk about people with mental health, but just think of yourself, if you're talking to somebody and they're clearly not listening, you're not going to you're just not going to feel confident, are you, in what you're saying? So it's really important. So write about what an active listening is, and then how it can support people with mental health. And that brings us to the end of this session, and just run through the aims and objectives again. So now you've finished the session, you will know the importance of a person-centered approach for a person with autistic spectrum condition. You will understand the concept of autistic spectrum condition. You will be able to outline sensory difficulties of a person with autistic spectrum condition. You can identify the benefits of effective communication with a person with autistic spectrum condition. You will be able to outline the use of visual communication systems. You'll have more understanding of why it is important to recognise and value individuals with mental health problems as a person, understand biochemical and psychological mental health conditions, and you will be able to outline factors that might affect a person's mental health state.